It's another dive watch, it's another Kickstarter campaign. But what makes this special is not just the vintage design, but also the designer himself. Have you ever heard of the name Fred Becker? Well, if you're a watch designer like me, you would love Fred Becker because he designed some of the most beautiful and successful microbrand watches. You just didn't know that it was Fred Becker that's behind them. If you're a watch pirate like me, you'd hate Fred Becker. Why? Because he designed some of the most beautiful and most successful microbrands out there. You just didn't know that Fred Becker was behind it. Not only are we hating him because we don't know that it was him that's behind it, but also yeah, somebody else is better than us when it comes to watch design. That's how watch pirates are envious towards other watch pirates or other designers. But nevertheless, if you love or hate Fred Becker, you would certainly love his watches like this Horizon Nemo because not only are they really well designed, but at the same time they're trying to put some innovations in there. That's kind of hit or miss. I'll tell you all about them. But overall, it's a well designed and put up watch that you must experience at the very least or own because that's another thing that I hate about this because I have to return this watch to Fred Becker. I wish that he would like reconsider and let it stay in the channel, to be in the good graces of this channel so that next time I would be able to review his other watches. I would allow him to do so, you know, but no, whatever. Horizon Nemo. Let's examine it. Designer watches are a dime a dozen, and by pure literal definition, all watches are actually designed. However, there are certain watches, such as the Nemo, that brings a special interest for me, as it's designed by someone that's already where I want to be. This is designed by someone who's definitely designed watches before, and it shows. On my 6.25 inch wrist, it wears very appropriately despite having a 22mm lug width, and the 40mm case diameter is also a preference for this watch pirate. On the operation side, the Salita movement inside is very reliable as we have come to expect from this caliper, but the unthreading of the crown may be a little underwhelming as it's very shallow. The rest of the operation is very familiar along with the Horizon signature date inside the index. It's a great feature where the date is hidden enough to be discreet but maybe too hidden to notice when it switches. And believe me, there's stuff there to notice with the alternating color between black and orange text. Pretty nifty detail. Then screwing the crown back is, well, rather quick. Pretty shallow, isn't it? Next is the quick release spring bars that feels a lot like a Zelos mechanism. You know why? Well, you're smart enough to figure it out. This endleg though has a tab underneath to help you secure the bracelet to place as you let go of the spring bar levers. That's not groundbreaking stuff, but definitely helps talkative watch pirates who can't be bothered to reach out for a spring bar tool. Now let's look at something special that does not require a tool. Butterfly clasps are often the last place you look at for micro-adjust mechanisms, but here we have them not just one, but in both sides. Now, if that doesn't tell you that this is a carefully designed watch, I don't know what will. Well, that's what it seems. At least until you proceed to push back on the links inside the clasp. You see, to slide it out, you need to press both buttons and use the same finger and the watch's weight to slide the mechanism out. But to push it back in, the bracelet and watch retention is working against your fingers while they push the buttons in. But it's still a good try. Hopefully, we'll see more improvements in the future as we expect more collections from this aspiring brand. This bracelet is definitely special while having that distinct retro aesthetics. But how does it fare against other straps? Well, happily, Horizon is offering a number of their own strap options to dramatically alter your Nemo's look. First, there's this black rubber strap that's super fine and clean. Just make sure that you measure twice and cut once, because once it's cut, there's no turning back. These kinds of straps are also notoriously hard to resell as you'll need to find a compatible wrist to wear it. But right now, it's your wrist that's the best match for this, and let me tell you, nothing beats a strap that's tailor-cut for your own wrist. This is super comfortable, and the butterfly clasp arguably works better here than on the metal bracelet. It's slick, and its exaggerated taper just gives it a classy personality. But if you want additional expressiveness, Horizon also provides a more rugged and colorful rubber strap that also doubles as a signaling device when you're lost in the middle of the ocean. Okay, maybe that color won't be much of a help for you in that kind of situation, but as Doxa has tested, this striking orange hue is in fact much easier to see underwater. And man, that great bezel is much lovelier with that colorful dial and band. Now, if that's too colorful for you and you prefer that vintage look, this distressed leather strap can transport you back to the time when you can still wear your Speedo without being mistaken for an orca with hairy limbs. I don't know which of the straps to pick as my favorite, as all of them are very well made and designed to work well with the watch. But this one though speaks to me more than the rest. What's it telling me then? You're taking way too long with these videos. You mean I should make shorter videos? No, it's taking you weeks to finish one. Shut up, strap. You know too much. All that aside, yes, the strap actually talks to you with a quote from Jules Verne from Under the Buckle. What one man can imagine, another man can make. Obviously, I have full authority to tell inanimate straps to stop talking. You, on the other hand, have a few things to say about this watch, and there's nothing I can do to stop you from hammering. Big O versus OC asks, can we get a review? Well, settle down, man. It's coming. Well, it's already here. Later. Wayne Seller says, the watch does nothing for him. And I agree, the watch does nothing for anyone from this screen and from any other screen for that matter. Fellow 6035 remarks he loves the dial, collar, bezel action, and the bracelet. Benjamin Viss, however, is not impressed with the backstory, but the refinements and improvements are worthwhile strides from the brand, among the other things that he said while hijacking my comment section. If you want to get your comments in the videos, subscribe to get alerted for more watch reviews. Looking at the watch, I can imagine the selling points about being inspired by Jules Verne's stories without leaning towards the steampunk theme. Others may tell you otherwise, but I don't agree with the steampunk comparison. With that small dial and that brutal bracelet, this is definitely vintage inspired than anything else. It's a fusion of visions with that modern case profile and functions in the guise of old-timey shapes. There's barely any edges and chamfers here, much like your granddad's wrist beaters. That's why it looks like a relic of the past. The micro adjust though brings you back to the future while giving some of the much needed texture with that Horizon branded plate. Yes, the micro adjust is a little easier to handle when you're not actually wearing the watch. The case back provides a tasteful facade to hide a likely undecorated movement. Very good decision there. Now let's observe the dial side by beginning with the bezel action. As you can see and hear there, the bezel action is very pleasing, but with the narrow edge, your fingers may slip occasionally. The box crystal is always a treat for me, giving this case a welcome detail while showcasing the sapphire material. Sapphire is also used on the bezel insert here, something that my granddad could only imagine having back in the day. Now onto the dial. The dial is just bustling with a mix of textures and prints that nearly overwhelms your eyes. There's so much detail to look at when you observe it closely. That's not necessarily bad, but it can be a bit distracting unless you look at the overall design. There are 7 dial setups with both etched and plain surfaces. Here, the matte finish is very lovely as it contrasts against those prominent indexes. The circular elements from the indexes is echoed nicely all throughout the dial. The quarter numeral's unique typeface gives off this impression, and even the lollipop hand is harmoniously brought together in this theme. Note to budding designers, if you want to imbue an organic personality to your watch, use more circular shapes like this and curvier lines on anything else. Light play is also not skipped here as the polished objects deliver the shininess while the rough dial provides the balance in shadows. The other smaller things are just ignored by your eyes. Here the date gets less attention while the counterweight on the second's hand barely registers from your view. And yes, of course, it's fun to play with the date window with its alternating color gimmick, but it's all relegated in a small, discrete portion of the dial. Lastly, the lume. I totally forgot to shoot that footage, So here's one from the brand's gallery to give you a taste of the watch's luminescence and, of course, my ignorance. As a brand, Horizon projects a certain composure to its design. Just enough interest to keep you hooked like a wide-eyed salmon in Alaska, but also versatile enough for grooming options for that seafaring pirate life that you have. Just don't invite this captain to your evening gala party. It will be hard to dress this up, but then again, many of you will likely not go to those kind of soirees anyway to dress up in the first place. But as a tool watch, the crisp metal finish married to all of these aggressive lines and curves from the case and bracelet really just elevates this tried and true design. And all that for $700 from Kickstarter. That's a value that's really hard to beat, and I know so because I tried to do so with my own watch design. Something that I could only imagine, but Horizon has already done. That's the Horizon Nemo, and another terrifically designed watch from Fred Becker. I didn't know that he designed some of the best looking Zelos watches out there. That's another thing that's new to this episode. I must admit, I was wrong. I thought Elchin was designing many of those, but it seems that actually Fred Becker was designing some of them, and tip off to that. For this Horizon, it's a win because it not only blends in some of the more unique features such as that lug and that dial setup, of course that index that also incorporates an integrated data window, but at the same time you cannot fault him for trying to innovate the bracelet. Now the bracelet, my honest opinion there, is a good try. It reminds me of the Oris micro adjust mechanism. It's not a completely new design scheme or principle per se, but it's a good try. But it's a little wonky, and it's a little clunky when it comes to execution, especially when adjusting it back to a smaller size adjustment. But it's a good try. Hopefully in the next few iterations it will be able to improve on that. But hey, it's a great value if you have $700 lying around. You could be part of this early bird launch campaign in Kickstarter. I think this is one of the best ones that I could recommend when it comes to Kickstarters. Fully support and recommend it. If I had $700, I would actually buy this watch. But also together with that Ubique that we reviewed earlier this year. I actually regret now that I missed the boat on the first one, the Horizon Nautilus, was it? I think that's the name. But some reviewers and influencers and YouTubers are saying that this is a steampunk watch. I don't think so. I don't agree with that. Steampunks I generally associate with more old and worn down materials, and also at the same time some of the gears are showing. That's what steampunk comes to mind in my mind. This is more of a vintage dive watch aesthetics, if you ever come across one. And also, if there was any other criticism about this watch, is that it's 22 millimeters in lug diameter. I don't really mind so much when it comes to 22 or 20 millimeter lug widths, so long as it's not 19 or 21, those weird lug widths that are in some Swiss watches. But here I'm missing out on some of the very cool watch combinations because of the much less attractive or much less popular watch lug width, which is 22. But that's a minor nitpick. Overall, it's a really good watch, and you should support this watch from Horizon. Again, thank you so much to Fred Becker and to Horizon for sending this watch. Honestly, it was a pleasure, even though I had to return it back, and it was an honor to actually hold something that was a designer's watch, so to speak, and not just someone who's trying to design something and hopefully make it click. So comment down below, let me know what you guys think about this new watch from Horizon, and let's discuss it in the next few videos.